Hello and welcome to our next interview with our author, Rose Lerner, who is the author of our January book club, Sweet Disorder. I'm excited to talk about this book with all of you, and I'm excited to talk about this with the author and ask her some questions because this was such a fantastic book. So, clearly we are fat girls in fiction, so we talk a lot about fat representation, and hello, look at that beautiful girl on the cover. So exciting. So can you tell us, number one, introduce yourself and a little bit about yourself, and then why you chose to make Phoebe a fat character?
My name is Rose Lerner. I write historical romance, mostly Regency set. I do have one Revolutionary War book, Hamilton's Battalion. You can see my little Hamilton paw right there. The Sweet Disorder is the first book in my Lively St. Lemiston series, which is like a small town Regency series. And my recent FF Gothic that started out as an Audible original audiobook, Wife in the Attic, is also in that universe. And Phoebe does appear. I mean, she I don't remember if she appears like on page. You might like see her briefly at the first sec, but like she does like well, I don't want to spoil anything, but she is a presence in the book. The main character is a governess, and her the girl that she's governessing like really loves Phoebe's book, and it was like very exciting for me to get to write that because I'm very fond of Phoebe. Why did I make Phoebe a fat character? Like, honestly, I wrote this book so long ago, like I don't even like it's like this is lost in the mists of time. It's possible that it's just kind of how she like appear, you know, like I get characters kind of, I try to not get like too mystical, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like sometimes a character kind of, that's how they are. And like, I don't, you know, they just kind of appear that way. So it's possible that's what happened. I know I had been wanting to write a fat heroine for a while because like, I've had really good fat friends who read historical romance, and obviously like, at the time, you know, now there still isn't enough representation, but at the time there was even less. And then even when it would sort of seem like there was going to be like a fat heroine, then it would like really go out of the way to be like, but her waist is super slender. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
But she's not like fat, right? And so I like having talked to them about it, and just like, it really seemed unfair. I mean, and like also, I mean, I hope this isn't TMI, but like I'm bisexual, and like I have had many crushes on fat women in my life, and like I think Phoebe is like really hot. Like I have a total crush on Phoebe, so like that might be like, I feel like that's probably part of it too. You can like, honestly, like I try to not be a creep, but you can probably tell by reading the book that I'm like into Phoebe's boobs. You know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna do?
I love it.
So
great. Yeah, because that kind of leads into the next question. I know this one can be kind of a sensitive topic to broach with people, but so you are clearly a straight-sized person, and you wrote a plus-sized person flawlessly. Like there was no like ickiness. You didn't really call on her trauma of living life in a fat body, which a lot of us experience. And so it was a safe book to read for that reason, and it's just a wonderful book to read. So how did you go about doing that? I know you mentioned talking to people, which I think is so important. Was there anything else you did to make sure that you were respectfully writing a fat character?
Well, I did have a sensitivity reader. Like my best friend at the time was fat, and like they read the book like when it was done, and I'm sure that I talked to them about it as I was writing it as well. So that was part of it. And like I definitely had like a lot of conversations like with them about like their experience, and like in general, you know, like talking about like our experiences of like body image stuff, and like, you know, with our, you know, our family of origins, you know, just like general conversations where it sometimes came up too. And like I was reading, I was on Tumblr a lot, like at that time, I think. It's so, again, it's like almost 10 years ago now.
Oh my goodness.
Right? Is that right? It's like, maybe not. Maybe it's not quite that long, but it was like quite a while ago now. So it's a little, but I think that's when I was on Tumblr a lot. And like I was reading this Tumblr called like This Is Thin Privilege, I think it was called. And they were posting a lot of like people's experiences. And so, I mean, but like, honestly, I mean, and like I said, like I had a sensitivity reader who read it at the end. So like, I cannot take full credit, right? Like there were a couple of lines that like they suggested that I remove and like, you know what I mean? So like, but I feel like my approach to a lot of representation in my books is like, the way that I write is very much about sort of like getting in character. Like a lot of times when I hear actors talk about their process, it feels a lot like my writing process. And so I think it's really just about like, for me, like once I've made, you know, set up the character in that way, then it's just like remembering, you know, like it's not just, right, there's a lot of things that I'm remembering about Phoebe as I'm writing, right? Like I'm remembering that her husband died, and I'm remembering that like she has this problems with her mother, and I'm remembering that she's like an author, and right, like it's just like remember, like, you know, imagining myself like as Phoebe, and just like how does she react to things, like what is she remembering, like what is she thinking about, like where is she in physical space, you know what I mean? Like it's just kind of about like imagination. And I'm not saying that that is a substitute for research or, you know, listening to other people's lived experience, but I really think it some of it, it's not it's not rocket science. Like I don't know. Like,
yeah. Well, and because you're treating it as she's a whole person, so she has, it's just one aspect of her is her body, and that's not always the case that is given to fat characters in stories. So yeah, she does have a lot going on, and that she just lives life in a fat body, and that's why I'm part of why I really, really like the story.
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so glad. I mean, you never know, you know, like it's like you try, but you never really know until people read it if you've succeeded. So yeah, I'm really glad that it worked for you and felt
so
real.
Can we talk about this cover? Because
Let's talk about the cover.
Is it like a redo? Because I know some of the people have an older one, which still had a fat woman on it, or at least a curvy one.
Yeah. So this book has had 3 covers actually.
Oh, okay.
So it had the cover, you know, it was originally published by Sam Hain, and they had a cover on it. And, you know, I was like very, like I said to them, like, we cannot put like a waif on the cover of this book, like, right. You know, and they did respect that, and they did like you know, they had a plus size model, but it was like, I guess they weren't able to find like a historical shot, like, because it was a stock photo, right? So they weren't able to find a historical shot. So it was like one of those ones where like they're in bed and there's like the sheets, right?
Yeah.
And so
I think
you couldn't really see a lot of her. Like, I think they tried, but it just like, I think a lot of people also missed it. Like some people, but like also she was still skinnier than how I picture Phoebe, but it was like what, you know, they managed to do. And I don't want to like criticize that, you know, it wasn't what I dreamed of, but it wasn't terrible, you know, it was fine. But then the second, when I self-published it, it was like a woman, like a kind of a close-up with like a yellow brocade border. Is that the one that you
no,
saw?
I haven't seen that one. I've seen the first one that you talked about.
Okay, yeah. There was one in between, and that also, like, unfortunately, like, you know, I was working with a cover artist, and like we really tried, but but the biggest obstacle is stock photography. Like, there isn't historical stock photography with plus size models, at least, you know, not in the way that there is for skinny models, right? Yes. So like she really tried, you know, like she wrote to the periodimages.com, which has a lot of the stock that historical authors are using right now, and like they had something in the vault, and like they put it up for us, and like unfortunately, like the model was beautiful, but it just wasn't like, she didn't have a lot of energy like in that photo shoot. Like, I don't know, you know, we looked through, there were like a couple of shots that they were like kind of static, so like we ended up doing like a close-up, and like I loved that cover, but it didn't get the react, you know, like it wasn't like, first of all, I think some people like missed that she was plus size because it was a close-up, which like I didn't even, like that wasn't on purpose, but it just worked out that way. But also like it just wasn't, you know, like it didn't strike people the way that I was hoping it would. And so when I had my last book come out with Audible, I was like, you know, this is hopefully like people that haven't already heard of me might be looking. And so I decided to rebrand the series because, you know, we took a risk with the covers, like people didn't love them. Let's try again. So, and I really wanted, like, I had seen, like, you know, since I self-published, like that was like my first, like those covers, like that was my first self-publishing, you know, real self-publishing experience. And so in the years since, like I had gone to events, you know what I mean? Like I had hand sold books, and I could see that people, the one that people always gravitated to out of my book, the books I had was this one, All or Nothing.
Oh yeah.
Because it has like the dress, like people really love the dress, you know? And I was like, okay, like I really want like a dress cover. Like I really want a dress cover, but like it has to be a plus size model. And my cover artist is so talented and so wonderful. It's Kanaxa, Kanaxa. She's a genius, and she photoshopped the dress like from scratch.
Oh wow.
She was willing to do that, and like she did an amazing job. Like
yeah, she did.
You know, and I trawled Shutterstock, and like it's like it was deeply upsetting to me. Like I can't even imagine like if I was like a plus size author looking at this. Like it's like I would find a model and I'd be like, this model is like perfect. Like she looks just like Phoebe. Like she's gorgeous. Let me look at her portfolio. And it's like, you know, there's not pictures of just her being cute in a beautiful dress. It's like pictures of her doing yoga and pictures of her measuring herself and pictures of her like eating and like pictures of her making funny faces. Not that there's anything wrong, but like, you know, compared with when I'm looking for stock for other books, it's very noticeable, right? And I mean, for like, I was wanting to do this rebrand for like a while. Like I'd been thinking about it because I'd seen that the other covers weren't getting the reaction that I wanted. And so I'd been like checking Shutterstock, like something's got to come up, you know, it's going to be like, and I just like, I had gone through like spent hours, like, and I put together like a Pinterest board, and like my cover artist, like in the original photo, this model was wearing like a sundress. And I had picked stuff where I was like, maybe if we like cropped it and we like changed the color, it could kind of look Regency, you know, she's wearing a t-shirt, but if we like put a sash, you know what I mean? Like, but she totally like, she bought like a couple of other shots with dresses, and then she like pasted it on, right? She like cut it up, and she like, she completely like, this dress is completely made up out of nothing, and it looks so good. And I love it so much. And I've been really thrilled by the response. Like, and I can see that the paperback sales have skyrocketed. Like, you know, and the paperback's not cheap. It's what? It's like $12.99, $13.99. And I can like, people are buying it because they're like so excited. And it's like, I don't know why people like, it's like, this isn't, again, it's not rocket science.
Right.
What?
I mean, I will tell you, the reason I bought this was mostly the cover, and then also that tagline contains a like confections and a number of erections. I was like, sold. I'm buying this.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And we decided to do like that like combination graphic photo thing, and like I'm just really, really pleased with how they came out, and they're all beautiful, but this one is just, it's so good. The colors are so good. Like, I mean, I can't take credit for this. Like my cover artist did it, but it's like, and I can like it's like, I really don't understand why the stock photos aren't being taken, why that, like, it clearly there's a demand. It's like, it's not like we're talking an insignificant portion of the population. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's,
the average size is 18. Like that is the average size of people. We at Fat Girls in Fiction have been we're like trying to figure out a way to fix the cover problem, because it is awful. Like it's so hard to find a fat girl and a live fat girl. Like right now the illustrated covers are big, so you get a lot of drawn fat girls, but like an actual person,
there just isn't the stock photography, like honestly, especially for historical. Like, in it's a little easier with contemporary, but it's still not like a huge, like I've seen the same 3 girls on like a lot of the cover, you know, like I don't know if you've seen like a knit, a pearl, a baby, and a girl cover.
Yeah.
Hello, are you there? You froze for a second.
Oh, did I freeze? Oh no.
Okay. Sorry, your video froze, so I was nervous.
Oh no.
But that model that's on that cover she was also in my Pinterest for Phoebe. She's like one of the very, like, there just isn't a lot, and like it's it's really expensive it's really frustrating.
Yeah. Something's going on with this, my audio or my internet. All right, hopefully that'll be better. Okay, but yes, it is.
Kind of cutting in and out. I'm not. Oh, there you are.
I think I fixed it. I had my door closed to the internet, so
okay.
Hopefully
I don't know what happened.
Cut out. But yes, I appreciate all of the work you did to make the cover as gorgeous, because it's so nice to have that representation on the cover, because nothing hurts quite as much as having a wonderful story about a fat girl with a skinny one on the cover, and you're just like, all right. So yes, wonderful.
Yeah. And it's like especially hard if you want a clinch. Like, I know multiple people who were able to find a stock photo of two women that were, one of them was plus size, and so that
Okay, so we are back after a little glitch. And I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about the character of Nick, because, am I frozen again? Shoot. Okay, so if we could talk a little bit about the character of Nick, because he was such a good hero. Like, he's not the, like, swoony, like, save the day guy. He's a little broody, and I liked him a lot.
he's like kind of inspired by Nate Archibald from Gossip Girl.
Okay.
But
So like, what went into writing? Because I like that he had that disability, like with his leg, and it just, it gives such a depth to the character, and like gives him, that broodiness that we can all love and root for. So what went into all the decisions on how you wrote him?
I think it started that I just needed some reason for him to not be in the army anymore, right? So otherwise he still would be. So, and in terms of like how I wrote, like, again, it was more just about remembering that, like, it was, like not forgetting about it. Like, when I was writing a scene, not like having him do things that he wouldn't be able to do, or like not, and then like, I mean, and again, it's like, I'm not saying this is an equivalent experience, but it's like, it's kind of how writing works, is that you have to draw on your own experience and like expand it into the character, or like, you know what I mean? Figure out like how, so, like I had just had, tendonitis, and like pretty bad tendonitis, and it wasn't like permanently disabling. It was disabling for a few months. She's like, I'm gonna put it's annoying me that my books are crooked now because I'm ridiculous. Yeah. So, but it was like kind of an experience of like chronic pain, like for while it was lasting, and just like how that affected me, and like it did affect, like emotionally, like it was distracting. It was like, it like made me feel like tender, like, like in like sense, like it, not sensitive, but like vulnerable, like it, I don't know, like it like it affected me. And obviously like Nick was somebody who had been recently disabled, so he was still getting used to it. And so that was like a slightly more analogous experience than it might have been if like he'd been dealing with this since he was like, a kid. But look, I mean, again, it's like you do research. Like, again, I had a sensitivity reader, a friend of mine with chronic pain, whose sister uses a wheelchair, like read it for me and gave me some feedback. And
yeah, I liked it. I loved the scene where like they're doing, like she's doing the laundry, or like she's hanging it all up.
Yeah,
and it's just like, well, if you're gonna talk to me, you're gonna help me. And like, and then she was like, oh, like as she's going up the stairs, she's like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have made him climb all of these stairs again. Like, I just, little things like that I just really loved.
thank you. Yeah, I'm very fond of him.
So I know that writing historical fiction or historical romance, you probably have a lot of research you have to do to like get the time frame right. And I loved like the bakery scenes, and like all of the talk of the old sweets, and like the printing stuff, and the whole political system. Like, so I'm sure there was a ton of research that went into that, because I didn't even think about marrying someone to get a vote. Like, I was like, that's interesting. So what was your favorite thing to research for this book?
I did really enjoy researching the political stuff. It was really interesting, and it was really like different than, like, it was both different in ways that I didn't expect, but also like similar in ways that I like didn't expect,
Yeah.
Like it was sort of almost like reassuring in a way that it's like, oh, like this isn't new, like this, you know what I mean? Like
Corruption's as old as time.
Like I saw this review of the book, and like I try to avoid reviews, and I'm not people are entitled to write whatever reviews they want, obviously, but I did see a review where someone was like, oh, like she just took like the Democrats and Republicans and just like transposed them into the Regency, and it was like ahistorical. And I was like, political parties like did exist like in the past, like I don't like we didn't invent like party conflict, like I don't know, it was like, because I definitely like didn't do that, right? Like that's what it was like, and the way that like businesses, right, there'd be like political networks where like businesses, like what grocer you went to, like you wouldn't go to the grocer that was like patronized by the other side, and like like not in every town, but like in some places, right? Yeah. Like it wasn't uncommon. So and like having colors, like the way that the political parties in local places would have like team colors, like I love that so much. So that was really fun. Obviously I really enjoyed researching the desserts. And I also really enjoyed researching Lord Byron. Like that was more entertaining than I kind of even really expected. Lord Byron is kind of like a hot mess, but he's like one of those people that like everyone just falls in love with him, right? Like everybody, like, and that's kind of his thing. Like he's kind of sucks, but like everyone's in love with him, and like, so I fell victim, what can I say? But like definitely not the only one, because like every author and scholar, it's like, right, you'd be reading and be this like clearly like really dry, like like pretentious dude English professor, and he'd be like, all of these like flighty women only like Byron for his body, but I value Byron's mind, and I'm the only one who like truly understands his poetry. And it's like, I see you.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah.
Well, that's fun. Do you have any other plans or do you have any other fat main characters or plans to write anymore?
The heroine of there's two heroines in Wife in the Attic, but the other woman who's not the narrator is like a small fat probably. And I have some other heroines that are like plump, like curvy, plump, but like not like probably like I don't really know where the straight size plus size divide is, I guess, in like size in like modeling. Yeah. But I obviously like I'm sure I'll write more eventually, but I write very slowly, so I obviously want to write if anyone's read True Pretenses, one day I want to write the heroine's brother. I want to write his book, and he's chubby. You might have noted, if you read it, remember that.
Yeah, because finding plus size men also is they're not there either.
Out there. Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be good. And what is the best place for the readers to like follow you? Are you on any socials or newsletters or anything like that?
So my website is roselerner.com, Lerner. You can find everything there. As far as social media, I'm like mostly on Twitter, at Rose Lerner. I do have like an Instagram and a Facebook, but I'm just use them less. I have a newsletter. Like I have a newsletter where you can sign up and just get special like alerts when there's like a new release. And then there's one where in theory I send it like every month, but it's really not that often, unfortunately. But it's got more sort of like regular, like updates, like if there's a sale, if there's like a giveaway, if, something's going on, like if there's an interview, that kind of thing. And I also, if people like really want to like follow along, like I have a Patreon, which is also just under Rose Lerner. That is like every week I send out like a little something of like what I'm working on, like a little behind the scenes thing. Most of the time it's honestly historical research because that's like mostly what I do in my life. But there's like other things too, like they get to see the covers early a lot of times, or like help me choose titles, or like, just little things like, yeah. So I think it's really fun. So if anyone's interested in that, they can find me on Patreon as well.
All right. So those are some good places to follow. And speaking of Patreon, I think we're wrapping up this portion of the video, but I always do a fun little portion for the Patreon members for Fat Girls in Fiction. And we need them to keep the website running because I have to pay someone to run it. So Patreons are always appreciated for go be Rose's Patreon and then be my Patreon for Fat Girls in Fiction. And you'll get a special interview that just has some funny, fun questions that will be available only to them. So I want to say thank you for doing this interview. And I'm so excited that our book club members will get to see it because we love this book, Sweet Disorder. So
thank you for having me. This was so fun.
And so it was so fun. And we have a Facebook group and a Discord that will be talking about this at the end of January. So join us. We'll put the links below. But yeah, so thank you very much.